heard about Rayshard Brooks' death, murder in Atlanta, it really shocked me because I was surprised that we were or are experiencing something like this um, during trying to understand and put the pieces together to what happened to George Floyd. So I was really just like brought to like a mental standstill. Like, how could this be happening again in the midst of it all? How could this possibly be taking place? And so, just being who I am, I just wanted to see what people were saying, like how other people were interpreting what was going on and the conversations that was taking place about the murder. And I was like really shocked by what I went on social media and saw. I think a lot of times when we experience things as a society, we turn to our community to really understand or help us gain an understanding of what we all collectively are experiencing. And so I spend a lot of time with different people, and I hear a lot of interpretations of what different races are experiencing, different socioeconomic, all of that stuff that really matters but really doesn't matter to the general population. Just people who spend time focusing on those things. So I spend a lot of time hearing that. But I like to tune in to what Black people are talking about and how we're handling these conversations. So and it took me a long time to get to that point, but when I tuned in to listen to or went onto social media and just went in some of the comment sections to, I guess, looking for comfort, to see if people were feeling the same way that I was feeling, or if people had experienced or having processed it the same way that I was processing it. And that turned out to be a mistake. I should not have done that, because what I found, especially Black men, I guess that's really, was my goal, to see what Black men, how they were interpreting it, how they were feeling, if they were still showing courage and just having dialogue about it. And some were, but when I went onto social media, I saw debates about what Rayshard Brooks should have done, should not have done, what position someone else would have taken had they been in that circumstance. Some commentary in the comment sections was saying how they would have, how they would have, done things differently. And I just was kind of taken aback by the whole thing, because I guess I feel like in that situation, you never really know what you would do. And it kind of led me to thinking about the people that are saying these things. Like, what can bring you to a place to where you would say, oh, I would have done this, or he kind of deserved what he had gotten because he shouldn't have ran? That really bothered me, because how could you bring yourself to a place to say something like that? Like, a person deserves to die, whether they're guilty or innocent. A police officer doesn't have the right to make that decision. That's what the court system is for. And so I don't want to get into the criminality of what happened or what that police officer is guilty of. But what I really would like to make a point about is we have to get back to a place where we value life. That young man's life wasn't valued in that moment. That police officer didn't see it equal. And I have a problem with that. And even more than that, I have a problem with the fact that we have brothers saying that this man deserved what he got. And that just leads me to my my self-love message, because I'm just like, do we have self-worth? Do we love ourselves? Like, for you to look at a situation and say to yourself that that person deserved what they got, you yourself don't see value in another black man. And if you can't see that value in another black man as a black man, I feel like you don't see value in yourself. I'm failing to understand or realize what would cause a person to make that statement, knowing that they can easily be in that same predicament. And of course, I take full credit in knowing that I am not a psychologist. I'm not, but I do understand and have a appreciation. I do have an understanding and an appreciation for what the mind does and how the mind understands things. And with that being said, I can't tell if I'm recording. And with that being said, it's like, when people say things like that, it really bothers me, because it makes me realize that you may lack a level of self-worth where you can't look at another man and see him being human enough to not slay him on the street. And it really goes into the mindset that a lot of black men have adapted. And I just believe that that's a self-worth issue. Like, that is definitely, for me, a red flag that someone does not have value in themselves and they have a self-love deficit. And I believe, like in a previous show and in my not this issue that I have out now, but my last issue is mental illness in black men, and we have to deal with it. It can no longer be a stigma. We have to have these conversations. And the fact that black men are willing to openly say he got what he deserved, he shouldn't have ran. Who wants to go to jail? Who is in a situation where they're trying to work on themselves, have probation, they're on probation, they have a life circumstance. We all have life circumstances where, we can say that could have been me, whether it's drinking and driving, and then I'm not saying that it's okay, whether, it's getting into a physical altercation with someone, any situation that none of us are really proud of. But if you're found in that situation and you're on probation on top of that, so any little mistake that you make, you're going to jail. That's kind of why we have to look at each other as human beings, because humans have a right to make mistakes. You cannot remove human error out of the spectrum of life, because when you do and you dehumanize somebody, then that's when they are not their life is not valued. You don't think about the family that they have, or the children that they have, or any of the circumstances that cultivates us as humans in society, all those great things. It's just like, if you don't give a person the opportunity to have those experiences and have those things, of course, when you're not going to value their life. You're not going to see them as worthy of allowing them to live if they make if they make a mistake. You're just thinking about fact, I mean, to you, the person is worthless. But for me, as a woman, a mother, a nurturer, to see Black men speak in that way about another Black man is a true indicator to me of how they feel about themselves. And that's a problem. And I know I put out a self-love message before, and it was dedicated to Black men, and there was, you know, a message just letting them know how we feel about them and how we love them. And I say this all the time, like, Black men, we need you all to get back to loving yourselves. If you saw that situation and you saw another brother, life was taken like this for running, and you thought he shouldn't have ran, that's what he deserved, I really need you to use that as an indicator that you got some work to do on yourself, because there's absolutely no way you should see that and not see a precious life, a father who has a family to take care of. Nobody deserves that. You know, nobody deserves just to be shot dead on the street, especially if they're not a threat. No one deserves it. So if you take that stance, I challenge you to do some self-work, some self-evaluating, do some hard work, ask yourself those hard questions. How am I feeling about me? You know, do I value my life? Do I wake up every morning to make sure that I have a lasting impression on my family, my kids? Am I thinking about my community? You know, am I thinking about women and respecting them and protecting them and making sure that I'm an example of what I would want my daughter to, if you have a daughter, if not your daughter, your mom or your cousin or your niece or somebody that you love, and an example of what I would want her to be bonded with for her entire life. You know, just start asking yourself those hard questions that will bring forth maybe some of those areas where you need to do some work in, because I just don't think that is a healthy way of thinking about manhood. I don't think that that is a healthy way of thinking about another man, our community. How do we rebuild our community if you feel that way? You know, how do we build with you if you feel that way? How do we fight if you feel that way? Because the reality is that the systems are against you. The systems are shaped to keep you in bondage. And that's what Rayshard Brooks was running from. He was running from the bondage. You know, he wanted to be free. He wanted to be free. And in that moment, he felt like his freedom was jeopardized. Do you feel like you deserve that? Do you feel like you deserve that freedom? Like, that mental bondage? Like, it's mental bondage to always have to think about watching your back, or even to sit up and have to decide how, you know, it's not healthy to sit up and try to decide how you would get out of a situation like that, because that is not normal. That situation is not normal, and it shouldn't be a normal. And that is the point. Those are the things that, you know, the protesters are standing for. Those are the things that people are working in legislature to try to fix. And the last thing we need brothers saying is, man, he deserved that. No one deserves that. Not you, not him, no one. So that's my self-love message, you know, brothers. Tap into your heart, you know, and I know it's a lot of brothers out there that do. And we recognize you, we commend you, and we love you, and thank you. But there are some out there that is lost in the pasture, and we need them to come home.